Hello and welcome to the CGS podcast, where we'd like to help you connect to, grow in, and serve God better. My name is Chris Rathbone, the host of the CGS podcast, and I'm so glad that you joined us today. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome to the CGS podcast. I'm your host, Chris Rathbone. I don't have the normal crew with me today, but I have my friend Adam Quinn with me today, missionary to Costa Rica. Is that right?
That's right.
Awesome. Got it right. Good. Well, I've known you for a long time, actually. Yeah. We haven't spent an enormous amount of time together, but I know what you're doing and following what you're doing, and I think you're doing awesome work down there in Costa Rica. But we met in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, at First Assembly of God, and I was in an internship, so which is interesting because it's Kara's home church. She grew up going to church there, and she's got history there, and my youth pastor, Daryl Wooten, was pastor there at the time, and so I wanted to be around him because, I mean, he's an incredible leader.
Yeah, a legend.
So I knew if I was doing an internship, I wanted it to be with him, and just happened to be with Chris Davis and Josh Williford and Michael Ballard, guys that became incredibly good friends of mine, and we were all three getting married that summer.
Yep.
It was honestly a blur. Yeah, it was a crazy summer. I don't remember a whole lot of it, but like, what was your impression of that summer? Because it was crazy.
Yeah, you know, because I think I graduated high school that summer.
Yeah. Because
Chris Davis came May of my senior year of high school, and we had a previous youth pastor who was just chaos. But then Chris comes, he's 22, not married yet, full of energy, and man, yeah, it was chaos.
Yeah.
You guys did a great job though, and I love that all three of you are still in ministry, doing great stuff all over the place, right?
Yeah.
But it feels like so many of our friends over the years, they just disappear. And but
yeah, what are a lot of them doing? You know, some of them I don't know what they're doing. Like even Michael Ballard's in ministry. In fact, he preached here last year.
Yeah.
We had him come speak.
I saw him yesterday.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Where'd you see him at?
We had our Oklahoma Network
conference.
Right. And he showed up.
Yeah. He's at Foundation Church, I believe, and then Williford is Ohio. I don't know what he's doing, but it's
I think he's their
district level something.
Secretary treasurer.
Oh, really?
Oh,
wow.
He's like an official on the district.
I wouldn't see him as a treasurer, but I mean, he's pretty organized, so he would do just fine. And Chris is still at James River, of course.
Yeah,
that's his place.
Yeah.
So I'm here, obviously, and been here 9 years this summer. So I didn't know if I'd make it 9 weeks, and I did not think I'd make it 9 years. But wow, it's been crazy. But so when did you move to? Well, that's not our whole story.
It's not our whole story.
Yeah, because after graduation, you went to OU, right?
Yeah. Went to the University of Oklahoma.
And you roomed with my brother.
Yeah. How
did you guys meet? Because you started living together right away.
We did in freshman year.
Oh, okay.
We're in the dorms. But Brian went to community college or something the freshman year because it was free.
Oh, that's right, yeah. And
did all his basics and stuff. I'm trying to remember. I think what happened was the Carbondale connection. So, you guys knew maybe Andrew Tiffany or some Carbondale people connected at... did we meet at a concert that they put on at OU, like a Bucks concert? And so, anyways, Carbondale, Assemblies of God people, I don't know. Like that was that world that we were all in as youth, and we'd do like youth rallies together and those type of things. So we got connected. Oh, you know what? I do know. Andrew Tiffany was dating a girl from Carbondale. Oh. And that's how we got connected because they overlapped in events and yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so you know my brother a lot more than you know me, really.
Yeah, I mean, we lived together for 3 years. Our senior year is just me and him in a little town home in Norman, Oklahoma. And neither of us liked to clean. We hated doing dishes. And so I remember...
My mom was telling me about that the other day when she came to... Yeah. She's saying, I was really nervous about paying that security deposit, getting that security deposit back because the place was a disaster.
Yeah, that's true. And we were both engaged there at the end and trying to, I think our parents were all questioning whether or not we were ready for that step in life.
You're never ready.
I remember Brian, he loved his mac and cheese. And that was the cornerstone of the diet in college, of course. But he didn't want to do dishes. So he had the one pot, and he would wash the one pot, make the mac and cheese, and sit on the couch and eat the mac and cheese out of the pot. So you didn't have to do it.
It's more efficient.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I will say, so I don't know how long it's been since you've seen Brian, because he moved off to Texas, but
Easter.
They keep a very clean house, and Meredith's got him on the straight and narrow.
That's good to hear.
So I'm actually repping his shirt today.
Oh, yeah?
So, yeah, I'm repping
that's awesome.
learning how to sign. But truth is, it's a very comfortable shirt, and I wear it all the time. But I am proud of what he's doing over there in Texas. But I need to get him to move back to Oklahoma, though, because it's so far away.
You know, I got to see him on Easter last Easter for the first time in years. You know?
Oh, yeah.
And it was great to catch up just a little bit. And yeah,
they're doing good.
They are.
So you go to OU, you live with my brother, and how do you go from OU to a missionary in Costa Rica?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's not maybe the most normal path, but I grew up in a church, like you said, in Bartlesville, and I always just felt like I was supposed to do something in ministry, but I didn't know what that meant or looked like. And so I would go to youth camp and just pray, God, what do you want me to do with my life? And I'd hear nothing. It was just like radio silence. And so,
well, back then they made such a huge deal on you have to know exactly what you're called to. And it's like, it's got to be down to because it never changes.
It was stressful, right? Because, youth camp goes like this Monday
if you don't leave with your calling, you're just
it's
out there in the ether because you can't go to youth camp anymore to find out.
Yeah. Monday night you get saved, and Tuesday night you get rid of your baggage. And then Wednesday night was the special Holy Spirit focus or whatever. And then Thursday night you get called into ministry or whatever. It's like boom, 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 boom.
You got to get it done.
And for every year I'd pour out my heart, and I felt like I heard nothing. And then when I was 16, I went on my first missions trip and we went to El Salvador. And I just remember King's Castle,
yeah,
right?
I did that one.
They're great. Their trips are plug and play, easy to do.
They're hard.
Yeah.
They're extremely physical.
They do. They work you. They make you walk. They make you wear clown costumes and dance.
I'm terrible. There's a lot of videos somewhere. I don't know. I've deleted most of them, but there's just me in the background, just doing this.
I'm glad that was before some of the video was happening, because if phones were a thing.
Oh yeah, it
would be terrible.
It'd still be popping up.
And
that's before TikTok. Now all the kids would come down and be professional dancers.
Oh yeah.
But back then I was just moving around. I was like, if I feel like I'm making people smile, moving around, I'm doing good.
It was so awkward. I really hated the dancing. Absolutely.
I did too. I won't go back.
It was a surreal experience, because El Salvador, which at the moment El Salvador has changed a lot, but
it was dangerous back then.
Very dangerous. If you had a store, you would hire a guy with an AK-47 to stand at the door, or you were just asking to be robbed. Like that was the deal.
The gang culture was out of control.
Yeah. And I just felt an overwhelming peace the whole time I was there, and I didn't recognize that at that moment.
I think that's called ignorance.
Yeah, maybe so.
No. I know what you mean, though.
A lot of my friends, though, they were feeling a little anxious, and we were at the very end of the trip. Our host, it wasn't the missionary, it was their, the intern leader dude that was over our part of the trip. But he said, "Do not leave this church till this afternoon. Stay in the church." And of course, 16 years old, I knew everything I needed to know about the world at that time. And so I was like, well, I would really like to go buy a Coke. And some of my other buddies did too. And so we snuck out the back door of the church and went down the street to the little shopping. El Salvador is kind of funny because they have to recycle those bottles. And so they'll take the glass bottle and they'll pour it into a little plastic bag and put a straw on it, put a rubber band on it. And so I'm drinking my little plastic baggie Coke. Now, I didn't know that the reason we weren't supposed to leave is because a gang leader is getting released back into the community. They're expecting a ton of violence. And so, listen to your missionaries if you go on a mission trip. Just do it.
It's actually very helpful.
But there was this moment where it was almost like the world went into slow motion. I can't describe it really well because I've never had anything like this before or after. And I felt God speak words directed to my heart. He said, this is what you've been searching for. You'll be a missionary to Central America. And like, it was that specific. I was like, okay, great. Let's do this. So I went home. I started taking my Spanish classes seriously. And then I thought any good missionary should go to Bible school. So
that's why you got into Spanish?
That's why I started, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, I never disliked it, but like it wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
And then it was like just an overwhelming passion for the language, the culture, and the people.
What a gift that was, because I remember, you take classes and you know, it's like, what is this going to be used for? And you kind of just, whatever, you just get through it. But you had purpose. That's great.
I think God designed us for a purpose. And I believe that even goes all the way down to our interest. And at that moment, I felt an overwhelming passion for the language, the culture, and the people. And that's continued throughout my whole life. So I started applying to Bible colleges, and I played housing deposits at OU and Evangel. And
so you were thinking Evangel at the time?
I thought I need to go to Evangel. Here's the truth. The truth is I was convinced I was supposed to be a missionary, but I also wanted to always have like the latest iPhone and a nice car. And so my thought was, I'll be a doctor and I'll do medical missions, and that'll be good. And then I can have the nice things and live the thing. And that's a good plan. If that's God's plan for your life, that's a good plan. It was not God's plan for my life. And so, and he would break me of that freshman year. He really did a lot of work in me. But I had toured OU, and I really loved OU. Like, so much to offer, and there's just this connection. And so I went to youth camp after my senior year with Chris Davis. And I stuck my phone in. You weren't allowed to take your phone to youth camp at that time, but I did. And every day I would call back home because, like, Dad, I'm going to OU. And the next day, like, no, I'm going to Evangel. It was like flip-flopping back and forth. And then Thursday at youth camp, I was just clear. You go to OU. And then I went home and completely second-guessed it and tried to change again, and God closed the door. Mm-hmm. And so I went to the University of Oklahoma, and my majors were Spanish and health and exercise science. While I was there, I got involved in a ministry called Chi Alpha, which is ministry to university students, and that was impactful. Greg Tiffany was my pastor my freshman year. Man, Greg invested in us, and he was going through a transition that first year, and he went on this 40-day fast. He only liquids. He was drinking broth, basically, and he took us on the spiritual journey with him. And wow, that is one of the most spiritually deep seasons of my life. I remember there was times that we'd have spontaneous prayer sessions because just a few Chi Alphans ended up in the laundromat at the same time, and God was just doing some really cool stuff. And so that was the season he broke me of my passion of money and my desire to have all those nice things. And I really sold out to this purpose. And then sophomore year, I met my wife. I was dating a Chi Alpha life group leader, another girl who was an RA, and on her hall was where Sarah was living. And so my girlfriend brought Sarah to Chi Alpha. Now, we did break up at some point, obviously. But we were really close friends for a year and a half before God, felt like he gave me permission to ask her out and start dating. And her story's a lot different. Like, Sarah grew up, her family was Mennonite Brethren.
Sarah's your wife.
Sarah's my wife. Yeah. I should have said that. Sarah's my wife.
I know who that it is.
Yes, Sarah. And
it's good that we've already forgotten the cameras are on.
Yes, we have two little ones. Atlas and Sadie are 9 and 7. Yeah. Sarah grew up in a family that was traditionally Mennonite, and not cart and buggy. Mennonite Brethren, they have electricity and drive cars, but very traditional, very conservative. And then her father joined the Air Force, and that caused them to transition to Southern Baptist. And so she came into OU, and she was just looking for a place to help her be Christian, and ends up getting connected with Chi Alpha. And Sarah's annoyingly smart. Like, she got like a 3400 ACT, like full ride to OU type thing. And And so nothing ever stands in the way of anything she wants to do. Like she just accomplishes it, and so she was pre-med. She wanted to be a doctor. She'd walk to class practicing her interview questions for med school and stuff. And so this is why I did not think that we should date, because I was done with dating for fun.
Yeah. And
I didn't see how our paths aligned at all. And so when God gave me permission to ask her out, I was like, all right, God, but you have to line up our paths. And after we'd been dating about a year, and that's whenever we went to Salt Conference, and God did a crazy move in her life, and then felt like he asked her to rededicate her future to him. And so she fell asleep that night and woke up in the morning with no desire to do medicine. And that shook her big time. But over the next few weeks, God began to give her a passion for a more holistic view of health. And she switched her degree to focus more on community health development. And that's been kind of a part of our ministry. First term, we did a ton of that, actually. Yeah. We call it community health evangelism, and we help the community identify their strengths and their weaknesses and build themselves up from the inside out. Instead of infusing resources and money and people, it's oftentimes not sustainable. But if we can help them identify what they can do, then they're able to create change, and then that motivates more change and more future.
Cool. So what's it look like to get on the mission field?
There's a lot of different paths. And within our organization, we have different classifications as well. And some of them are quick and easy, like going from 1 to 11 months, you raise an amount of cash you need, and you just kind of show up like a missionary, career missionary, like we call them. They will be your host. And so you find that person, and then you do the process, and you can be there quick, depending on how fast fundraising goes. Then we have a missionary associate. It's a 1 to 2 year thing.
So Costa Rica came into play because you found the right missionary to pair with?
Yeah.
Or did you find the country that you wanted?
That's a good question. I don't share much how we ended up in Costa Rica. But I went to a conference called World Mission Summit, and I knew that I wanted to spend the summer in Costa Rica. So I just sat in Central America, specifically Central America. That's because that was the call. So I sat in a room where the Latin American missionaries were sharing all day long. I didn't go to any other breakouts. And there's only one Central American missionary that showed up that day.
Oh, really?
And she was in Costa Rica. And so I asked her if I'd come spend the summer with her. Her name was Mary Mann, and she said yes, and she picked me up at the airport and dropped me off on the other side of town, and I did not see her for 2 months.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was chaotic and scary, and that's not how we
do the job? Like,
yeah.
Here you go. Oh my gosh.
I know her.
So what was that like?
I know her very well now.
Yeah.
And I understand now. That's not how we usually
Oh
do
my
it.
gosh.
But yeah, she dropped me off at a house where they had like an apartment behind their house, and they went to this church up the road. I was supposed to be working at the church.
Wow.
But she hadn't expected the people at the house to take care of me some and help me get food and stuff. And they did not. And so like I went to this little supermarket down the street, and I bought the things that I recognized, which was hot dogs and Oreos. And that was like my entire meal plan.
Oh my gosh.
And I cooked the hot dog the first time. I boiled it, and like I bite into it. I couldn't figure out, it was like hard. I couldn't bite into it. And I figured out it had a plastic wrapper around the actual dog. And so anyways, just
you got that figured out though.
Yeah, so much.
Wow.
But after college, like I was ready to go, but Sarah wasn't quite there yet. We also felt like God was sending us through a time of training, and so we became missionary associates with Chi Alpha, and we went with Greg and Susan Tiffany to pioneer Chi Alpha at the University of Tulsa for 3 years before God gave us release to go to Costa Rica.
Oh yeah, cool.
We started taking mission teams back to Costa Rica though after that first time.
So I probably was somewhat around then at that point.
You were.
So
and when
we did stuff at Chi Alpha back then.
Yeah. And when we first became missionaries, you helped us take our prayer card photos.
Oh, yeah.
In Eastland.
Man, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I saw that picture the other day.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Were they any good? I don't even remember.
Pictures were, well, the execution of the picture was excellent. Sarah always complained because she felt her nose looked funny. I was like,
Oh, really?
what are you going to do about that? You know?
That's funny. Okay, so let's shift gears here a little bit. What do partnerships look like? What do you have any like really good partnerships? Like who's your like really great partners right now?
You know, I think we have a lot. And are you meaning like churches and supporters and stuff? Yeah.
People that stand out, certain pastors or churches or leaders stand out to you.
And they come in all shapes and sizes. Our home church, Spirit Church, they're our largest financial supporter because we're theirs, you know.
Uh-huh.
And they love us and they pray for us, and we get messages from them, and every time we see them, it's a life-giving experience. There's a church up in Michigan who added us a couple years back, and they have a mission structure that basically every mission they support has a rep from their church, and that person every month connects with us.
I love that.
And they want to pray with us, and if there's a need, they will sometimes just randomly meet it. And that's not always just financial. I mean, they do have some ability to do that, each one of them. But Atlas, our son, when he was born, he had some crazy kidney things going on, and they actually wanted to pull him out early and do a surgery on him and stuff. And so we were sharing that with her for prayer. And then showing up at her doorstep in Costa Rica was this blanket with a Bible verse printed on it, and their whole missions team had prayed over it for us. And
oh man,
it was just such a touching thing. Like, and that blanket we still
in those moments you're grasping for hope. Mm-hmm. And so something like that you can literally wrap around your child, know it's been covered in prayer. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I have a lady who texts me every day, says I'm praying for you.
Oh wow.
I mean, the missions world it's really lonely out there. Like, I don't know how to describe that well, because it's not just being away from everybody, but it's also being in a place where you feel like nobody fully understands you.
Yeah.
Both there and here, because our friends here, they don't fully understand our life there. They don't fully understand what we do. Mm-hmm. It's hard to connect the dots for them.
I mean, I relate to that so much. I mean, you're basically just a pastor, but in a different country.
Yeah.
You're pastoring college students, and now you have a church, and we'll get into that in a minute. But my pastor told me before I took this on, he said, I never talked to you about this, but it's very lonely. And I thought, you're full of it. You know, you just, whatever. You got people around you. Yeah. I'm with you all the time. Like, well, how can you be lonely when I'm with you? Yeah. But I didn't realize there were so many things he was harboring, and he couldn't share, and stuff that he just has to take. And he's shielding me from, and there's stuff that he can't share with us, even his family. And there's stuff that people don't relate to. They don't understand it. Yeah, it's just you don't get it until you've sat in that chair. You don't really know. So I didn't get it, but yeah, it's lonely because there's so many things that you have to navigate spiritually and harbor or bear for people, and then you have to turn around and do it for the next person and the next person, and you have to be a source of hope. It's just a lot. Yeah. It's a lot for a guy.
It is.
So.
And it's hard being an outsider. No matter how many years we're in Costa Rica, we'll always be an outsider. Yeah. Yes, we speak Spanish. They know it's not our first language. Yeah. We speak good Spanish, but that creates a barrier. And our kids, like they're what you call third culture kids, and they will always identify as Costa Rican, but Costa Ricans will not see them as fully Costa Rican. Yeah. Because their home culture, in our house, it's a very American culture because that's who we are. Mm-hmm. It's tough. And so it is such a blessing when we feel like people see us, care about us, pray for us. It's huge.
Yeah. That's cool. So when your kids come back here, do they struggle with the American culture? Is that kind of is there some oddities there?
It is. It's funny. There's stuff you don't expect being like oddly stressful. Like, when I first came back, I ate a lot of Oreos. I'm gone on a diet, lost a lot of weight.
He lost a lot of weight.
But I ate a lot of Oreos. I loved Oreos. And I went to get Oreos at Walmart one day, and there's like a whole aisle of Oreos. Like,
Okay.
do you know how many Oreos
The
you guys
selection,
have?
yeah.
Like, I was just happy that they had double stuff in Costa Rica. And so the kids, it's just funny things that they'll get overwhelmed with.
They're honestly out of control with the Oreos. It's like, just settle down. Put out the double stuffed Oreos and get rid of the rest of
Who's
these.
buying all those types?
A lemon Oreo? Who eats a lemon Oreo?
That just sounds wrong. And I think socially it's weird. You know, for the first almost 6 months when we were back, every 4 years we come back for a year-ish for fundraising. We call it itineration. And so for the first 6 months, Sadie cried herself to sleep every night. And she sleeps with a photo book of her best friend under her pillow.
Oh, wow.
You know, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And there's just nothing you can tell her to help her understand that we have to do this so we get to do that. And it just doesn't, money isn't a thing to her.
Yeah.
She's 9, and it doesn't make sense why we're being kept from being there. It's tough.
Yeah.
Atlas, he's pretty attached to, especially to his mother. He's a big mama's boy as a 7-year-old. But he gets overwhelmed by the noise of places in America, which is funny. But Americans are a lot louder than Costa Ricans usually are for some reason.
That's interesting.
And he just it's too loud. There's too many people.
Huh. Now, I've never been down to Costa Rica before. I've been to El Salvador, Mexico several times. Mm-hmm. I've been to Venezuela, and all of those places are loud.
Yeah.
At least like San Salvador is.
Yeah.
Now you get out in the mountains, it's quiet.
I mean, Costa Ricans can get loud, and I mean traffic and stuff, that's loud. But typically they're also very respectful. So if you're in a restaurant, they don't talk at the top of their voices like the Americans do. So usually you can tell if there's an American in a restaurant because you hear them. I mean,
loud,
specifically when they're in Costa Rica, but yeah. And
Yeah.
so, Chili's here feels like you're in the middle of rush hour, and there it's a lot quieter.
The restaurants can get out of control here.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can fast.
It's overwhelming.
So support, yeah. So what does missions look like if you didn't have support?
I mean, it wouldn't exist. We have, I don't know, maybe 100 to 150 individuals, churches, and businesses that are committed to us on a monthly basis, and then others that give offerings when they choose to. And it creates this team, is really the truth. And we do our best to communicate what's going on, because everything that we do is a victory for them. And, we want them to count these salvations as salvations that they've helped achieve, and these discipleship and these new leaders as leaders that they've helped train. And it's the only way it can work.
Yeah. So I was looking at some of your budget that you're raising, and it's kind of overwhelming, honestly.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And there's this stereotype of missionaries, and there's always a reason for stereotypes. They're going and living in this foreign country. All of the money that they're raised goes right into their bank account. And that, they're driving nice cars. They're living this great lifestyle because they're living different economies, different monies. That's not what's going on. On very effective, the ones that are doing really good ministry, they're stretching those dollars. So tell us what.
Oh, yeah.
I was shocked. I should have brought the paper in here, but tell us some of the budgets you have to meet.
Yeah,
because there was $140,000 for this, and it's a lot.
We have a lot of projects we're working on too. Projects are challenging because some of them it's a lot of money, but it's a need. So we have our monthly budget, we have our cash budget, and we have a project budget. Thankfully, the project budget won't keep us from getting back, but it's stuff that we need to be able to do some really cool stuff. Our monthly budget, that's what gives a lot of people pause, be like, oh, well, you're getting this much money a month? No, unfortunately, that's not the reality.
That's not your salary.
No, our salary is way less than that.
Yeah.
I mean, the truth is, now we're 12 years in, right? And we have 2 full-time ministries that we run. It is very similar to a church's budget. Like, we have our small bit that's salary. The rest is all work funds. And it is running a church, it is running a university ministry. That's where the money goes, you know?
Yeah.
It would be like looking at your church's budget and saying, oh, wow, Pastor Chris is making this much. Like,
Yeah, we're bringing like between $200,000 and $300,000 a year.
Yeah.
I'd tell you right now, I ain't
that's
getting
not
that.
your salary. I'm
Not
guessing.
even remotely close to that.
No, right.
And honestly, if it was, that'd be evil. Honestly,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
If I were to take that kind of salary for this, that would be evil. Yeah.
Yeah.
But and people do it though. I mean, I know people take advantage of it, but the ones that are actually getting work done, they're putting themselves they're the last ones to take. And so,
yeah. And then all we want is to be where we're supposed to be. And so actually we just recently, like, there's a few things in our budget, like, that we influence directly. Our office makes some of the budget, and we make some of the budget. And so we recently went in and slashed a series of things, like mainly stuff like some office expenses and stuff. And we're like, well, we have missions teams coming. Hopefully they can help us buy these things that we need on a monthly basis, just because we need to be back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we took out about $900 worth of just stuff like that monthly.
So how often do you guys itinerate?
Every 4 years is what we're supposed to do.
So 4 years on and then 1 year here?
Mm-hmm.
On a 5-year cycle? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you're getting ready to go back.
May 8th.
So by the time this airs, you'll probably be back in Costa Rica by now.
Yeah,
So.
It's a week from tomorrow.
Yeah, oh yeah. That's great. That's good. I'm glad you were able to get back.
In fact, we lack a small bit right now. We're hoping to get it this week. Like, we're working our tails off.
Yeah. Yeah, well, hopefully we can do a small part at least and push you closer to that finish line. We'll definitely do our best. So one of my favorite things about, like, my kids are getting older. My oldest is 13. She'll be 14 in September. Like, how old is your oldest?
9.
9. Okay, so you're just right behind then.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the coolest thing about raising kids in ministry is the ownership that they take. And Claire, Paige is still she's 7, so she's just living her full life, and she's not, she doesn't know aware of everything going on. She'll like hear us talking about something. She's like, "Wait, we do that?" It's like, "Yeah, we've been to it 12 times." Like, you don't remember that? That's just her personality, though. That's the youngest kid. But her oldest is like, she runs the check-in and thing, and she helps organize kids' activities for our outreach, food truck outreach. And just last night, I talked to her about, I was like, "Hey, I need a social media person. I can't keep up with it consistently. Why don't you help me schedule some posts?" She didn't even have social media, but she can log into the computer and just, put sermon quotes and whatever in. And she's excited about it. And I was like, "I'll pay you a little bit out of my own pocket, if you can help me do this." And, she's, maybe she'll get a new phone or something out of the deal eventually. But it's just cool to see her excited about being involved in it. And she celebrates what we celebrate. And she's sad, she sees those tough conversations we have. People are leaving the church, or whatever happens. They feel those things too. It's like, what's some of the cool things that you've seen from your family? Things you never thought your wife would do, or never thought your kids would do. What are some of those things?
Yeah. The kids do very much identify as missionaries now. And I remember a couple years ago, we had, Sarah never thought she would do children's ministry at all. And when we planted the church, it was a need, but I saw her really flourish in it. Like, she found some great curriculum. She started to pour into these kids and disciple them, and the kids group started to grow, and it was just really neat. And Sadie finally, she captured what we did for there, and she realized we're here to tell people about Jesus. And so she made a collection of drawings, and then she wanted to go to the park and walk around and tell people about Jesus.
Oh, cool.
And so we went down to the park, and, she did a great job in her, I think she was probably 7 in her innocence, but it is exciting to see. We don't want them to ever feel like it's a weight on them, because it was our choice to do this. But we also know that God calls the family, and He knew that we were going to have these two little ones. And it's been so cool to see influence that we wouldn't have expected. Like Sadie and Atlas were in a school. We're transitioning to another one, but they're in this international school for a couple of years. And Sadie walks in, and when she entered the school as a 3-year-old, which is crazy. Like that's when they started, but she didn't speak a lot of Spanish at that moment. And they put her in a class that had several kids that spoke pretty good English. And so they're like, she'll be great. And she sought out the one girl who did not speak a lick of English and still doesn't like to talk English, this girl. And that was her best friend. Her name's Sophia. And she latched on to Sophia, and they've been inseparable. And Sophia's parents, they're both doctors, great people, but no relationship with God, no history, no family relationship with God. And we've had opportunities to connect with them in significant ways through our kids, right? Mm-hmm. And we're still praying. Like we haven't reached the end of that story yet, but that God will continue to open that door. And that's part of what we're transitioning with the church we planted was we're going to be moving to a micro church model, because people like them, they would never come to church.
Yeah.
But they will show up to our living room, right?
Uh-huh.
And we're realizing God's using these things to give us opportunity to share with them.
Yeah. So one thing that we're doing as a church is we're trying to figure out what evangelism looks like today. I've had some interesting conversations with Daryl about this, mm-hmm. and he tells me a story about they used to do was the Day of Hope. Mm-hmm. Day of Hope. They did the big thing at the park.
Yeah.
Used to, and it's massive. And it's Easter weekend usually, and the Easter egg hunt. And all
Easter
that
was at the park. Yeah, Day of Hope was at the church.
And he told me that they brought in a missionary, and his job as a missionary was to smuggle Bibles into China or some mm-hmm. communist country that didn't allow it. And, mm-hmm. and he's like, "What are you doing, Daryl? Like, I'm taking on gunshot and smuggling Bibles into a country, and you guys are handing out hot dogs." And it's just wrestling between, do we risk our life and lay down, and go into this commando type evangelism, or do we hand out hot dogs, and what's the balance? And mm-hmm. Daryl said, if I don't hand out hot dogs, I can't share the gospel. And he's right. He's mm-hmm. the cultures are just so different. Yeah. And so you have to find the bridge. And so one thing that we're doing as a church right now, and to shift that, is we've been going through, I've taken several people through this book called Bless. I don't know if you've heard of it. Mm-hmm. John Foreman, Ferguson. God, I forget it. Anyways, I'll mess it up. But the Bless act is begin with prayer, listen, eat, serve, and share. And so the idea is that you build relationships with people, and you actually listen to them instead of just talk over them. Mm-hmm. And listening opens up so many doors to learn about people. Yeah. And once you can listen to someone and eat with them, sit across the table, it really breaks down a lot of barriers. And when they know that you're actually listening to them, they'll open up. Mm-hmm. Through that, you get to hear ways to serve them. Yeah. And then you step up and do what Jesus did and bring in the healing, bring in the blessings. Yeah. And then there's this key moment that I've experienced several times through our food truck ministry, because we put this into practice about a year ago. And people will ask me how or why. Mm-hmm. One or two questions. Mm-hmm. How do you do this, or why do you do this? And that's when you say it's because of Jesus. Mm-hmm. And it just clicks for people. And all of the compassion, all of the moments that you shared with them, and they've identified that you're different. And at that moment, they're able to say, oh, it's because of Jesus. And their hearts open up. And it's a cool thing. And I think that's kind of the heart of what you're what you're seeing. And I think it's something that goes across all cultures.
Yeah.
People want to have true relationship, genuine relationship, and Jesus and his compassion, grace, and love, mercy flow and do so well in those type of environments. And so I love what you're doing with the church. I know we haven't really got into exactly what you do yet.
Yeah.
And, but you started doing college ministry, campus ministry, because that's what you knew.
Yeah. Well,
and you're still doing that
it's what
heavily.
God put in our hearts. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that God will a lot of times, he will move us in attainable steps, It's steps that are just outside of your faith, but you can get there if you do a mental jump, right?
Yeah.
And then he continues to grow it. If God had sent me to Costa Rica to plant a church, I would not have showed up.
Yeah.
Right? I have 3 total months before becoming a missionary as church staff, and that was as an intern at Spirit Church, First Assembly, where I ran a fireworks stand. That's what I did for 3 months, right?
I somehow got out a lot of that.
Yeah,
I don't know how I did that.
Out, man. So I had no clue. Now there's so much in God's plan, but we went to Costa Rica because there's 250,000 college students on 60 campuses, and no one was telling them how much Jesus loved them, and we weren't okay with that. And so over the last 12 years, that ministry has really grown. It is active on about 12 campuses right now across Costa Rica, including the biggest 3, University of Costa Rica, the Tech campus, and then the UNA, the Universidad Nacional Autónoma, the National University. And we've seen God raise up incredible leaders. And one of the coolest things now is we saw God raise up the first ever home missionaries. We have a staff of 8 Costa Ricans, and one of those is actually now the director of what we call RU, Red Universitaria, University Networks, what that is in Spanish, but we call it RU for short. And man, he's got a crazy salvation story. Like it'll mess you up. And now him and his wife are the directors of this ministry, and we still get to disciple them, invest in them. And God gave us all that to then surprise us with the next step of the puzzle. Like, now he gave us a ministry center right on what's called the Calle de la Amargura. It's the road of bitterness and sorrows. That's the road that leads right into the University of Costa Rica. It's a go-to bar party scene. Like, that's where everything's happening. Just chaos Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. And we felt like God said, you can't just have this building to reach college students. You got to reach the rest of the people too. And so that's whenever we started Somos Comunidad, which is a church, a place. We don't use the word church in the name for a reason, right? The word church has a tricky connotation in Costa Rica. So if you say church, they think of the Catholic Church first and foremost. A lot to unpack there, but Catholic Church does not identify as Christian in Costa Rica. They are Catholic. It's a very specific thing. And then if they don't think of that first, they think of usually a really unhealthy evangelical church.
We see a lot of that coming into our area. Is our Spanish congregation has identified, when people get here and they get into our church, it's like they got to be discipled. There's so much bad doctrine and just goofy stuff that they're used to, and they need to be discipled. So Pastor Sam is a phenomenal discipler. That's his passion, and he's taught me so much about that. But it's exactly what you're saying. Coming even all the way here, we're seeing, and even still in a lot of these churches here, we're seing the same thing. Yeah,
that's crazy. I mean, so that's why we're like, let's just get rid of that first barrier, which is just our name. And so we are a community, Somos Comunidad. And so they don't know we're a church from the name. They figure out we're Christians pretty quick. But just because we get to know them a little bit first, it's been really cool. But we say it's a place of community, hope, and purpose. It's not traditional. We meet around tables. We always have food because I want to have food. No, because spiritual things happen around the table. It's the third bless. That's the eat and bless. Yep. And it is relational. It's community driven. It's discussion oriented. Like, that's kind of cool because the Word of God speaks to us. And right now we're meeting around 6 different tables, and each table will have a host, and each table will have a slightly different takeaway from a passage, because the Word of God's alive and active, and it speaks distinct to your situation. So we all get to learn better together, and then I'll usually share a short reflection. And we've moved worship and prayer to the end because we found we had so many non-Christians coming in that they had no understanding of this, and it was like an instant barrier, because like they're walking into this thing where everyone knows the words and they want to stand up and sit down, and like they just don't know, and they're outsiders. And so instead they know how to eat and they know how to talk, and we do those things, and we have an hour of relationship, and then they come into worship time with us, and we see God just do some incredible things through that.
Cool. Yeah. That's amazing. Well, as a church, we just to be totally honest, so much of our church history has been survival. And I am a firm believer in local churches reaching the local community. Yeah. It's so much more efficient. Mm-hmm. And what we see a lot in Assemblies of God, so we're not Assemblies of God, but I am ordained, and I know you are, but one of the kind of unfortunate things is sometimes people will replace missions giving with missions. And I never wanted to do that. I always wanted to be a church that's active in the community and reaching people. And if we're not discipling people and reaching people, I don't see a purpose in us being a church.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that's the reason we gather, is to, we say help people connect, salvation, grow, salvation and community, grow, and that's discipleship, and serve, which is bring other people in. It's a wheel that we complete. Yeah. And if we're not doing that, I just assume just close the church. And so we started out survival. Let's make it to where we can keep going. Mm-hmm. And then we quickly realized that we needed an outlet. So we started our free food truck ministry. Mm-hmm. So we have a monthly outing that we build community. Basically, set tables out. We do a good meal. Mm-hmm. Take care of dinner for people that night. A byproduct of that is it meets a need for some. Okay. The park we do it has a lot of homeless. So we feed the homeless, and we help them, and there's ministry there. But it's not a homeless ministry. Mm-hmm. And so now, though, as one of my goals for the year is to find a missionary partner, because you look at the Great Commission, it talks about it starts at home and then it circles out and goes further out. So I think it's time for our church to take it seriously. Now, we've always had missionaries come in. We've sent them offerings and supported them and done little things here, but it really hasn't been part of our heart. And I think it's time for us to change that. And so, why is it our responsibility as a church to team and to send people out, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, the Bible says that we're supposed to reach at each level, the city, the state, the country, the world. And I feel like we all have a responsibility. Like, I would say not just the church community. The church is made up of, the church is the people, right? And each one of us has that responsibility. You're talking about, the church has to reach out to their community. I would even go as far as say, like, are you guys even, are you even Christians if you're not doing that? Because that's like what he said to do. That's what Jesus said to do, know? So I support missionaries all around the world, people I believe in, works I believe in, because I feel like that's part of my charge as a Christian.
So what's step one for a church that wants to make this part of their heart and passion?
Yeah, we always say, threefold to be involved in missions: pray, give, and go. Those are easy to remember. I have always found that once I start praying over something, it gets embedded in my heart, and it is real hard to let go of that at that point, right? And so, start to pray for the world. There's different ways to do that. There's this book what is it called? Oh goodness, Operation World, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
It goes through every country, every people group, and I have friends who open that up every day, or you could do it on their phone because it's a big book, and they'll today I'm praying over this country. I have a list of, because my heartbeat's always been Central America, and there's 7 countries in Central America, so that works perfectly. Every day of the week I have a different country in Central America I pray over. It doesn't, if there's some place that resounds with your heart, sure, focus in and pray on that place, right?
Yeah.
I have to warn you, like, if you start to do that, it's pretty common that God will start to move you into action, and before you know it, you might end up being a missionary there. But that's worth the risk. So start to pray, and then start to give. We always hear people. The big excuse is, I don't have any money to give, and in my experience, we give more than we are able to, and God provides more than I expect Him to.
I mean, honestly, like, I think that's not true for most people. I mean, you go by 7 Brew here, and there's going to be 55 cars around there, and they're there every single day.
Sure.
So what would it look like if 15, 20 people said, okay, I'm gonna skip one coffee? I mean, it's like $5-7 a coffee now. So like you get 5 to 7 people, or $7 a month from 10, 15, 20 people.
Yeah, that's significant.
Every church is doing this. I mean, your budget's met, right? I mean,
absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and I try.
I mean, what is a typical? Sorry, but what is like a typical monthly support look like from an individual?
It's all over the place, but we do have. I think our lowest at the moment is $25 a month. We previously had one at $12 a month, and they I don't know what happened, but our lowest I think is $25 a month right now. But we have individuals that support us as much as $600 a month.
Wow.
Some people just really believe in what we're doing, and they put their money where their heart is.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's a numbers game too, though. So how many individual supporters did you say you had? You mentioned it earlier.
I said that we have between 100 and 150 supporters.
That includes church, though.
That includes churches. I used to know that number a few years back, and I couldn't tell you now. But used to, we had slightly more individuals than we had churches. And if you took out our biggest church, we had more money from individuals than churches. Yeah.
Cool. Well, neat. Yeah, because a church sometimes, I remember I used to look at the wall. Sometimes it's like 15 to this missionary, 20 to this missionary. It's not always a ton of money, but it's a numbers game. So,
yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I hope to maybe go someday. I don't know that that's when that happens or what. I'm kind of just getting started in this. But maybe I hope this maybe goes someday. But we can definitely start by praying, and we can definitely start by financially giving, even if it's just a bunch of people doing micro giving. I mean, it makes a difference, and
it does.
Yeah, let's do it, and let's work together and partner. And I believe in what you're doing. I love the testimonies of just taking the next step and being faithful. It resounds so much to me, and I would have moved to Arkansas to take on this church. I never would have, but God knew what it took to get me here, and he orchestrated it, and we've been so blessed because of it. And so just taking the next step. And so for some of you, you've never given to missions, it's never been a part of what you do, but maybe this is something that you can do. Maybe you can be a partner and write letters and be that prayer partner that keeps tabs. And that, to me, it sounded like that makes a big difference.
It really does. We even have some that they have all of our birthdays and stuff noted, and they'll send an email or a video celebrating our kids' birthdays, and
that's
it's just so sweet.
I would love for some of those type of relationships to come from our church, and us to be a church like that. Because to me, it seems to me like whenever I get a letter or a note or something, and it's few and far between, but when I do, it's at the right time, and God just knows how to orchestrate all that perfectly. And well, hopefully the cameras are still recording. I've been thinking about it for the last 20 minutes. Are they still going? I don't know, but thanks for coming and sitting down. You drove all the way from Tulsa this morning. But I really enjoyed the conversation. It's been good to catch up, and we'll go get some food here in a minute. But thanks for coming. Anything else you want to share before we sign off on here?
No, I mean, I'm grateful for you guys. This has been a whole journey, and it takes a lot of sacrifice. But when God tells you to do something, you can't not do it.
Yeah.
Right? And we wouldn't be happier doing something easier. There's been times we've had opportunities to transition to more comfortable places, and our hearts wouldn't let us do it. And so we're excited to come down. I'm good to see you, and I love what you're doing, right? I can tell that you're having a great impact in this community. And hope to see more of you. And I hope you guys will bring a missions team down sometime.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, it would. So, all right. Well, thanks for watching. Hey, we're watching today. We're not usually doing this, but thanks for listening or watching, however you're consuming this today. And we really appreciate and love you all. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for listening to the CGS podcast with your host, Chris Rathbone. We really appreciate you listening today. If you enjoyed the content, feel free to subscribe. That way you'll get notifications every time we post, which should be once a week. If you like this content and want to learn more about our church, visit citynwa.com. There you can find our full messages. Plus, if you want to plan your visit to the City Church, that's a great place to do it. Thanks for listening today. Hope you have a great day.